Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the town of Sherborne in Dorset. It's about 6 miles east of Yeovil on the A30. And we're going to be doing a roughly 6-mile circular route to the south of the town, looking at a few things in Sherborne itself before heading out into the countryside through an ancient deer park with some excellent views of the 2 Sherborne castles. We'll be passing through the hamlets of Hayden and North Wootton and then returning through some quiet country lanes and woods. Well, I'm filming at the beginning of autumn. The sun is out, a few clouds about and a little bit of wind, but it should be perfect conditions for walking, so do come along with us. Now I've parked my car at a long stay car park to the south of the town at, I think it's called Culver Hayes, near the railway station. Well, just before we head out into the countryside, we'll have a look at a few things in Sherborne itself. And we'll start off with the Abbey, which is just behind me. And this is Sherborne Abbey, or the Abbey Church of St Mary, and it's been a Saxon cathedral between 705 and 1075, a Benedictine abbey between 998 and 1539, and a parish church, which it is today. The Saxon cathedral was built by St Oldham on the site of a previous church. He was its first bishop. A monastery was founded in 998. In 1050, a new cathedral and church was built on the site, and of that, only the west wall and parts of the columns survive. Hopefully you can hear me above the chimes of the bells. Now in 1075, the bishopric of Sherborne was transferred to Old Sarum at Salisbury, so Sherborne remained an abbey church but was no longer a cathedral. Now a chap called Roger de Caen, or Can, I don't know how you pronounce that, C-A-E-N, he rebuilt much of the church in 1130, replacing it with a larger Norman-style church which was completed in 1180. In the mid-14th century, St Oldham's original church was pulled down and a new chapel of ease built called All Hallows, but that was then demolished completely in 1542. So basically when St Oldham built his original cathedral, it was to the west of the current buildings, so the west wall of the current church is the east wall of St Oldham's old church. Well, after the dissolution of monasteries in 1539, it was bought by Sir John Horsey, who was a knight of Henry VIII, and it became the parish church when he sold it to the people of Sherborne. I think Horsey is buried here. And it was heavily restored in 1850, and the Abbey Tower contains the heaviest ring of 8 church bells in the world, with a tenor bell weighing just over 2¼ tons. And I believe King Alfred's older brothers, Ethelbald and Ethelbert, both who spent time as kings of Wessex, are buried here. And just to the north of the Abbey is Sherborne School. There's been a school in the town since the time of King Alfred, who was educated there. The school was refounded in 1550 as a grammar school using some of the old Abbey buildings. It's now an independent school. Well, just to the east of the Abbey is this building called the Conduit, originally built in the Abbey cloisters in 1520 as the monks' wash place, and it was moved to Market Place in 1553. And just to the left of the Abbey on the western side is the St John's Almshouses, built in 1437. And it's got a dual dedication to St John the Baptist and St John the Evangelist. Well, Sherborne's certainly a very pretty town and there's so much to see, but unfortunately we haven't got really that much time to look around. We need to kick on with our walk. It's very much a historic market town, and indeed in the 16th century the main London to Plymouth road passed through it. The actual origin of the name, I think, is Saxon, Sker Burn, relating to a stream, and sure enough there is the river that flows to the south of the town. just at the southern end of the town now, crossing the River Yeo, spelt Y-E-O. I think it's Old English EA for river, also known as the River Ivel, the Celtic river name. Giffel means forked river. Anyway, it's 15 miles long and rises in the North Dorset Downs and flows via Sherborne and Yeovil and joins the River Parrett near Langport. Well, just a little update on the route. As the sun goes behind a cloud, we've made our way out of the town and now in the countryside. We're going to start heading eastwards, and you can see the Abbey just behind me. Wow, look at this for a view. Isn't that beautiful? And this is the park which we're going to walk around. Lovely. As well as its abbey, Sherborne has got two castles. So let me tell you about them. There's a lot of history attached to them, and I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. But well, they're located behind me here. Now, the old Sherborne Castle, which I can just about see through the trees there, was built in 1122, or between 1122 and 1139 by a chap called Roger de Caen, or Caen, C-A-E-N. He was the Bishop of Salisbury and Chancellor to Henry I. Anyway, Roger built a fortified palace as an occasional residence and base to control the countryside. It was eventually seized by King Stephen, and then it was returned to the church by Edward III until it passed to the crown in the reign of Henry VIII in the 16th century. Now, Sir Walter Raleigh then owned the estate in the late 16th century. It was given to him by Queen Elizabeth I. But Sir Walter found the task of refurbishing the now ruined castle and making it habitable too great, so he built a new mansion on the site of an existing lodge to the east of it, and he called it Sherborne Lodge, and it was completed in 1594. Anyway, Sir Walter, of course, was charged with treason against James I, and after he was discharged and was waiting execution, James sold it to Sir John Digby, the first Earl of Bristol, in 1616. And then during the English Civil War, the old Sherborne Castle was being held by Lord Digby II, Earl of Bristol, for Charles II. It was besieged twice in 1642 and again in 1645, when it was captured and ruined to prevent further usage. After the old castle was destroyed, the name Sherborne Castle was applied to the new mansion, and the Digbys owned it for another 200 years. Now, in 1753, the grounds here were redesigned by Capability Brown and incorporated the ruins of the old castle into the gardens. It passed to the Wingfield-Digby line of the family in the mid-19th century, and the Wingfields still live in there today, I believe. You can visit it, but I believe that no dogs are actually allowed in the castle, but they're allowed in the grounds, provided they're on a lead. And one final little story about Sir Walter Raleigh. His ghost is said to return to the castle every year on the eve of the feast of St Michael, which is the 29th of September, which is a month before the anniversary of his execution. He was executed in the Tower of London on the 29th of October 1618, as I said, for his conspiracy against James I. And apparently, well, I say his ghost walks between the trees in the eastern side of the park before sitting on a stone seat now named after him. And he used to sit there smoking tobacco once, and whilst enjoying a smoke on his pipe, a servant approached him with a jug of ale, and thinking that his master was on fire, he threw it all over him. Now, Sherborne Park was once a medieval deer park. And these days the park and the lake cover about 440 hectares. And the lake alone is 20 hectares, and it was created by damming up the River Yeo in 1753. Just come through the park and at a place called I think it's called Jerusalem Hill, and this is the old lodge that well, it's currently being refurbished. I was speaking to the gentleman that's doing the thatch work. He's telling me it's a 4-month job. I don't think it's derelict as such. I think it does get used from time to time for shooting parties and things like that. We're just going through a lovely little wooded area. And there are a few sort of brick foundations from time to time, and it's a relics of well, a Nissan Hut Field Hospital. It was built in 1943 by the Americans. The 228th American Hospital treated something like 22,000 patients after the war here, and apparently it was handed over to the National Assistance Board for dispersed people. Mainly families of Polish soldiers returning from the war, and it was then known as Hayden Camp, but the camp closed in 1956. And now it looks as though we're just going through an impressive set of gates coming out of the Sherborne Castle estate. A real sweet little lodge or cottage on my left. So now we're at a place called Hayden. Well, just looking over the wall there, that's St Catherine's Church at Hayden. It's a redundant church, converted to residential use now. It was entirely rebuilt in 1883 to the north of the original site. You can see there's a lovely stone bellcote on the western gable, and I think there's a cross on the eastern gable. Well, we've left Hayden. Some rather worrying dark clouds starting to appear. That was as far east as we were going to go on the walk, so we're now heading south, or should I say southwest, down a sort of single track lane called West Lane, and we're going to follow this for about a mile or so, heading towards North Wootton. A little pit stop, some terrific views either side of this lane. Just looking across a little field of sunflowers, enjoying a little bit of sun that's come back out again. A beautiful, peaceful, late summer, early autumn scene. I mean, the grass is so brown. Of course, we've had all the drought this year. Well, I'm nearly at the end of Water Lane, just on the outskirts of the little settlement of North Wootton, and just over in the field there, you can probably just make out a church tower. And hopefully you can see it because it's starting to get a bit dark now. But that's the remains of the old church of St Mary Magdalene. The tower itself, which is all that does survive, is 10 metres high. The nave walls were dismantled in 1883, and the stone was used to build a new church to the southeast. The church was once a chapel of ease to Sherborne, and the tower actually dates from the 14th or 15th century, but I think it was restored in 2015. I mentioned the new church, that was built in 1883. There's a nave, chancel, south porch and bell cote over a vestry, but that's now a private house. We're not going to be able to see it because it's well, it's on the main A3030, and it's a busy road, and it's I don't think there's a pavement there. Wow, what a delightful thatched house called Pound Cottage. So we've crossed the A3030, continuing to head southwards down, I think it's called Clot Furlong Lane. Well, Logan has found a golf ball. I've just been walking along the side of this hedge, and I could hear people on the other side, and it's actually a golf course, folk golf course, established in 1991. It's a family run course. There's only 9 holes, but with alternate tees to form an 18-hole course, but sadly, well, that ball definitely went astray. Well, I've got to the end of Cut Furlong Lane, and that's as far south as we're going to go. So now changing direction, heading back towards Sherborne on a sort of northwesterly direction along Green Lane. Now if you wanted to, you could add a little detour of about a mile or so and have a look at the church at Folk. Lovely little church of St Lawrence, but say we haven't quite got enough time today. Very much on the homeward leg now. Looks like we're passing back into the Sherborne Castle estate, past this lodge. Gosh, what a quite exquisite house. Sort of a mixture of thatch and tile, the roses outside, fantastic views across to Sherborne. Wonderful. Well, we're nearly at the end of our walk, coming back into the outskirts of Sherborne, and this here is the pitch of Sherborne Rugby Club, established in 1980, and then just on the other side there you see the floodlights. That's Sherborne Town Football Club, founded actually in 1895 but moved to the present ground in 1985. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. We've had another super walk today. The rain did hold off in the end. We're back into town, see if we can find a cup of tea somewhere in Sherborne. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Good boy.